there seems to be more trouble for the beleaguered Australian camp. Shane Watson has reportedly walked out of the Australian team after being axed for the third test. Reports suggest that Watson left the team hotel and will fly back to Sydney after he was axed for the third test against India at Mohali. Watson, along with 3 other players, was dropped from the team for not completing an assignment. A clearly miffed Watson seems to have had enough and has quit the tour midway. Sundar Iyer, our associate editor sports, is with us, getting us the story on headlines today. Sundar, exactly what was feared has happened. There was a fear of a backlash from the Australian squad, and that exactly surfacing right now with Shane Watson heading home.
Well, absolutely, Preeti. Clearly, this is something which is feared out there. Simmering rifts did seem to exist in that Aussie camp, especially between the captain and the vice captain. Now, Shane Watson walking out, it does kind of put paid to those reports that were coming in that there was some unrest in the Aussie camp. Shane Watson, remember, was dropped from that third test along with Usman Khawaja, Mitchell Johnson. But to see him now walk out and go back to Sydney has certainly raised fears that there's a revolt brewing in that Aussie camp. Remember, Shane Watson, there are some reports that said that he's expecting the birth of a second child at the end of this month, but seems like he's now gone early, knowing fully well that it's going to be difficult for him to make it back to that squad in the fourth test, and raising fears that there's a revolt that's certainly hitting Aussie cricket further.
You know, the Australian team right now, Sundar, is sailing tumultuous times. Now, with this particular walkout, 3 other team members benched, what kind of morale would be there in the Aussie dressing room?
Well, it's certainly taken a huge hit, hasn't it, Preeti? It's going to be difficult for the Aussies to recover from this kind of an extreme measure, which is why we'll now have to wait and see what the Cricket Australia bosses feel about this decision. I don't know at this stage if the team management did take them into confidence when they went out and handed this ban from the third test to the 4 players, but that's something we'll have to wait and see. But clearly, it's going to be difficult for the Aussies to recover from this kind of extreme blow, because what happened on the field was difficult, no doubt, to counter with. But to see a player walk out midway on the tour, someone as experienced as Shane Watson, someone who's also the vice captain of the side, a member of the touring team management, well, it certainly is going to be very difficult for Australia. But we heard Mickey Arthur there mention in his post-match, in the press conference there this morning, that he tried to justify the move, saying that there's a certain vision that the Australian team has in its aim to go to the top, and what the players did by not submitting that presentation was totally against that, and hence they had to take this extreme step. But we'll have to wait and see what the Cricket Australia bosses feel.
You know, this vision that you're talking about, Sundar, of cracking the whip, sending out a strong message, many would say, and playing the devil's advocate here, would say that this action could have waited. Not only have you lost Shane Watson right now, but members like Patterson, who could have really worked in favour of Australia, where the Mohali pitch is concerned, now will just be sitting and watching the match from the sidelines.
Watching the match from the sidelines is still something that the Australians might have been able to deal with, but to have Watson walk out and return midway is certainly one that has left many of us shocked and surprised, because this does mean that there's a lot more to it than what meets the eye. Maybe it's just not the fact that they didn't submit the presentation. Maybe there was an ego clash between the captain and his deputy. So that's something we'll have to wait and watch. We're trying to obviously get reports from the Aussie camp on that front. But yes, like you mentioned, to see players of the caliber of Watson, Pattinson not make it to that 11, especially when they face a must-win test at Mohali, if they have to keep the series alive, it does mean that the Australians are indeed walking on thin water. It's going to be very difficult for them to bounce back.